zipper is laying face up. You know it's face up because the tab is on top. Okay? So the first step is you remove the overlap like this, fold it back, and you slide your zipper with the teeth running along the folded edge of the underlap. Do you see right up against it? Not like this, which they should not be covering. Do you see the teeth are just matched against the edge of this? So let's figure out, as I am a gadget girl, I promised you. Let's figure out what zipper foot do we need. I need the one with the hole closest to the zipper teeth because it's the zipper teeth that are going to push this, give me trouble, right? So if I use this one, I can't get close, correct? Do you see? If I use this one with the hole on the right side, it's not the right one. You know this. You don't have to memorize it. If you ever get stuck, just, you know, before you put the zipper foot on, you see you need a zipper like this one so that the hole is very close to the teeth of the zipper because we'll be stitching 1/8 of an inch away from the zipper teeth. You can pin it in place. I'm a firm believer if you start sticking pins in this, it's going to create waves. Once you create waves, your sewing is no longer accurate. I also don't like basting more than necessary. In professional sewing, you baste as little as possible and you pin as little as possible because it takes time and it distorts things. Okay, so I'm going to change my zipper foot. This is, do you remember I told you last week that don't buy extra zipper feet until you know which ones you need. So you will see, and you know, if you only want one, that's fine. If you want to be like me.
So you don't do it in 2 steps?
Pardon?
You don't do it in 2 steps, like first.
Not this side, the other side. The other side, you'll see. I know what you're asking me, but yes, patience.
Okay.
So you are at 2.5. This is a construction stitch. It's kind of a top stitching stitch, but it's also a construction stitch. This zipper is going to have quite a lot of beading. You know, if it's on a pair of pants, it's going to be pulling and pushing. It should be strong. So 2.5. People ask me, where do I match the top? I don't know. If this was a pair of pants and your seam allowance at the top was tiny like this, of course I'm not going to leave this hole open like this. In this sample, it doesn't make any difference. You know, the easiest way is to match it with the top of the sample. If you're working with a skirt, let's say, if you are doing this kind of a construction, then consider the seam allowance at the waistband of your skirt. If your seam allowance is 1/2 inch, you know, you'll be here, you have a hole. Maybe you don't want a hole. Then you'll be sliding it higher. Okay. Yes, you can, yeah, you can trim it afterwards, right? But I'm just, for this sample, don't worry about it. Take pity on yourself, okay? So look, it's right along the edge. We are 1/8 of an inch away, 2.5, you're back stitching. And here you will see the tab kind of doesn't disturb you. If it does, open it. No problem, right? You can still see where the edge of the folded fabric runs along the edge of the teeth. Okay, if you want, close the zipper now. Right? And so lay everything straight. This is a straight line you're sewing. You're not really watching the needle. You're watching the edge of the foot sort of traveling along the folded edge of the fabric. And we're going to sew all the way to here. Okay, and I'm back stitching at the end. There. There's your first stitch. Now, you ask me, am I going to baste it underneath? Now I am. Because what I need to do now, I need to find, I call it the sweet spot, where everything matches, it looks beautiful top to bottom. The sweet spot cannot be found at the top because look, you have this nasty little bulky thing and it pushes the fabric away. So what happens is, if you start looking for that perfect match right there, you can overcorrect it and then look what happens. Okay, so you're looking for that perfect match somewhere from the bottom, maybe to here. Do you see how flat it lays? And do you see how it's pretty and everything is straight and nothing is pooching? So hold it, and you see here it starts to bubble up. ignore the top for now. We don't care about the top. So what I like to do is hold your fingers like that, where you found a perfect match, and expose the seam allowance, and grab the zipper tape and the seam allowance all in one go, like that, and flip it. You need to see, you see this is our sweet spot. I can see that the edge of my zipper tape runs along 1/8 of an inch away from the top of the serged edge of my seam allowance. Okay? When everything is perfect, let's do it again.
Yeah.
That's it. It's you know what? This will be second nature to you, I promise you. So you ignoring the top half of the zipper, because this is distorting everything. So go from the sort of smooth it and look. It's beautiful right now. You don't have anything puckering at the bottom. So just hold it so it's comfortable for you. And flip the skirt up, but keep the seam allowance stable, and grab the zipper tape underneath. Sort of like that. Do you see? I just pinched it. And this shows me that when everything is perfect, the edge of my zipper tape is 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, serged edge of my seam allowance. So you can stop holding it now. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to match this distance all the way up to the top, because I know that this is where the zipper wants to be when it's laying perfectly flat and it's comfortable. The zipper, remember, zipper is a straight line with the rigid plastic teeth in the center. If you start going sideways and sort of going an S line, the fabric will pucker, the zipper won't, because the zipper will be a straight line no matter what you do. Okay, you can't manipulate the zipper sideways. Okay, so I'm not pinning. I'm just gonna hold it. It's 1/8 of an inch away. If you want, open it. If it bugs you, just open it up. And so what you're looking for is like kind of a straight. I'm gonna put one pin in because I don't want to distort the bottom of it. Just one pin here somewhere. When you're pinning zippers, don't ever put your pins in like this. This allows for the lateral movement of the zipper against fabric. You guys, you can't be talking when I'm teaching. Ladies, it's a class, you can't be talking, you need to talk outside. Thank you. Okay, when you want something not to move, because you're sewing this way, you have to pin against the direction of your sewing. So if you want something to be stable, you pin it like this. So you know if you sew this way, the zipper is not going to travel with the sewing, because the zipper foot wants to push the zipper towards you. Don't let it. Okay, that's how you control it. So I'm putting one little pin in. I just want to make sure the bottom doesn't get distorted. So somewhere around here, it's arbitrary. Okay, because what I want is to smooth it in place. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm measuring out about 1/8 of an inch everywhere. And I'm just gonna, this is called permanent basting. I'm not reducing the stitch length because this stitching will never be picked out. It's not attached to the skirt body, it's only attached to the seam allowance. And this will hold your zipper in place when you're top stitching that nice little line that goes around like that. Okay, when you're top stitching this, the zipper is already attached to the seam allowance and it's not gonna shift left or right. If you look inside, it's easier to see on the jeans because jeans are usually not lined. If you look inside any fly front, especially jeans, you will see lines running underneath on the wrong side of your garment that don't show on the outside. Those are permanent basting lines. They attach the zipper to the seam allowance before they top stitch it in place. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to, it's 2.5, I'm back stitching because this is permanent basting. And just control it so it doesn't shift left to right. And then you can take this out. And I'm going to close it so that, you see, it's laying, it's not fighting me at all. And I'm going to take it all the way to the notch. There we go. Look, it doesn't show on the outside. But look what happens now. Check that your sweet spot, so to speak, is okay. It's always going to open up more. There's nothing you can do about it. This is why the fly front zippers are so deep, because they want to hide the tab. In a regular skirt, it'll just be hidden when you have the waistband overlapping, and the hook is going to pull it in place. This, don't worry about it. Smooth it like that. Did you achieve your goal? Yes. Because you see where it's sitting, it's not pulling the fabric out of shape. What we're going to do now is top stitch it, but we're doing it blind, right? We can't see the zipper. The beauty of this, it's going nowhere. If this bothers you, you can open it up and do it open. Because the zipper cannot move anywhere, it's attached. That's why we did it. And of course now, guess what foot I need? I need the other foot. Do you see why I have 2 feet? Because I want the feet now where the hole is facing that way. You can, if you really don't want to, and I don't force you to buy gadgets you don't want. What you can do is you can stitch it bottom up. You can start at the bottom and stitch it this way. You can do it on muslin, but the problem is that there is such a term, I'm not sure if you've heard, it's called directional sewing. When you're making a skirt and it has 2 side seams, both seams should be sewn top down or bottom up. If you sew one seam top down and the other seam bottom up, you're distorting the skirt, you're skewing it. Every line of stitching you put into fabric distorts the fabric in some way. When you sew by hand, when you sew by machine, something happens, the fabric becomes a little bit shorter and it shifts slightly. Okay, so what you want, you cannot avoid it. It cannot be prevented. The serger does a terrible job of shifting things. All you can do is shift it in the same direction. Do you see? So if one side seam is top down, the other side seam should be top down as well, because the skirt should go this way. You will especially notice that if you ever sew with plaid or stripe, where you're trying to match things across seams, if you try to sew one to, it's going to be very difficult to match. But it's just, you know, it's you know, I want things to look pretty, so that's why I'm going to replace my foot. So directional sewing, you can only do it with 2 feet. At home, I have a domestic machine that has a universal foot with holes on both sides. So what I have to do is shift my needle, you slide the needle left and right, and you don't need 2 feet. Mind you, I have 3 feet anyway. I'm sorry. I'm a hoarder, I can't help myself. It's a good thing. I always tell my family, you're very lucky that I don't hoard large things like bags of flour or rice or something like that. Because then I'd be on TLC, the hoarders, you know. I hoard little things like that that are easy to hide. When you buy new ones, nobody knows. And then somebody says, did you always have that? Yes. Sorry, I can't help myself. I figured I'm a professional, you know. Would you tell a surgeon, do you really need that other scalpel? No. Exactly. You see? There. I just thought of that excuse, so I'm going to use it for now. Would you tell a surgeon? No. Okay, so you can see that if I'm leaving this tab opened or closed all the way up, it's going to interfere. So I'm going to open it. And so how far away should you sew? Usually, you know, if this is 1/4 of an inch, it's kind of close, right? It's not substantial enough. I would say convention is 3/8 of an inch, and 3/8 is between 1/4 and 1/2. Maximum is 1/2 inch, because when you start doing more than that, you need more seam allowance underneath. Okay, so I'm going to use 1/2 inch just because I can. You can use 1/2 inch or 3/8. And you have 2 options. Because we're top stitching, you can increase it to 3. 3 actually makes a more beautiful top stitching. But it's a construction seam. But remember, we already have a construction seam underneath. We permanent basted it, so it's already strong. So I'm going to use 3. I'll accept 3 or 2.5. And I'm going to top stitch gently. And look, because the zipper is open, I can watch my seam allowance, right? It's nice. It's not a joy to sew a zipper like that. You will never be stressed by zippers again, I'm not kidding. Okay, so you continue to do that, and you reach a point where you have to close up the tab. So now you're going to eyeball. You know, it's okay. It's not so bad. So eyeball it as straight as possible. And where you stop is usually, do you see this is where the notch was? You are 1/4 of an inch below. So I'm going to put a pin to warn myself that I'm going to be 1/4 of an inch below right there. Little tiny pin. How am I doing? Not too bad. Okay. And you can walk the last stitch. So you're right there. Take your pin out. Sorry about that. And then you pivot and try to stay straight. You know, that's another challenge, is that it's very easy to sort of go like that, or go like, yeah, eyeball it. The beauty of muslin is that you can see the grain of the thread, right? So follow the thread, pick a thread and follow it. And you need to stop in the ditch. So I'm gonna walk it. And look, I'm not quite in the ditch, but if I take another 3.0 stitch, I'm gonna be over. Reduce the length of your stitch. How long? I don't know. I think 1.5, less than 2 here, because you need to end up in the ditch. There, look, I'm right in the ditch, do you see? And you can do a little back stitch still on a short stitch, because it's prettier when you don't see the back stitch. Or you can do the 0. Okay, there's your zipper. Look, it's perfect. There's no pooching. You know it's good because when I mark your zippers, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to look at the top unless you're totally off. I'm looking for that beautiful sweet spot. You know, if you smooth your zipper, look, it looks nice. Looks nice underneath. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing but on a curve now. And I believe you will appreciate the open zipper technique even better on a curve.